In 2016, Greenville County was shaken by the tragic slaying of Zachary Whitley, a beloved community member caught in a deadly crossfire at his home. The case went cold, leaving his family and the community in despair. Fast forward to 6 years, another horrifying event transpired at the exact same location. Charity Southerland was found brutally slain, echoing the violence of Zachary's untimely death. Were these two incidents linked by some hidden connection? Or was it a cruel twist of fate that such tragedies occurred under eerily similar circumstances? Greenville County, located in the northwestern part of South Carolina, has grown significantly over the years, with an estimated population of 568,227 in 2024. This area blends small-town charm with a bustling downtown, becoming the largest county in the state by population. However, despite its economic development, certain neighborhoods continue to face challenges such as poverty and high crime rates. Greenville's crime rate is notably high compared to national averages, with residents facing a 1 in 23 chance of being a victim of violent or property crime. Such were the cases of Zachary Whitley and Charity Southerland's slayings, both of which occurred in Greenville County, reflecting the darker side of this otherwise thriving community. Zachary Whitley had been a resident of Greenville County since a long time. He was renowned for his cheerful personality and devotion to his family. Despite his kind demeanor, Zachary's life took a turn for the worst, leading him to get entangled in the local criminal underworld. With 2 children, a daughter and a son, dependent on him, he worked as a landscaper and a pool installer to support his family. Charity Southerland was an honored citizen of the Greenville community, remembered for her generous and compassionate soul. Charity was unfazed by being a mom at such a young age, and she vowed to provide her kid with a happy life. She was devoted to her loved ones, and well known for her kind disposition and contagious smile. Sadly, both Charity Southerland and Zachary Whitley had no clue that their lives would be mercilessly taken under the same roof and circumstances that were uncannily similar. A peaceful Sunday afternoon in Pelzer, Greenville County, was disrupted by a violent altercation. At approximately 4 p.m. on April 16, 2016, an argument escalated into shooting on 220 East View Road. Inside the house, Zachary Whitley, then 31 years old, had himself trapped within the deadly crossfire. As mayhem broke out, Zachary took a single gunshot to his chest. Despite his grave wound, pure adrenaline pushed him to make an effort at fleeing. Pressing against his chest, he stumbled out of the home and fainted in the front yard before he could even make it to his car. Unfortunately, before aid could reach him, he passed away from his wound. The interior of the house revealed a similarly terrifying sight. 3 other people, Zachary's friends, sustained several gunshot wounds and were critically wounded. Of the 3 victims, 1 was taken by a helicopter to the Greenville Memorial Hospital, while the other 2 were taken by ambulance, with each fighting for his life. After witnesses provided the law enforcement officials with thorough descriptions of the suspects, those descriptions were made public. It wasn't a one-man job, but a team that comprised over 3 men and 1 woman as getaway driver in a silver Toyota. The first suspect was described to be a slender black guy in his early 20s. He was wearing jeans and a black cut-off t-shirt, stood around 5 feet 6 inches tall, and weighed between 120 and 130 pounds. The second suspect was 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighed between 160 and 170 pounds. He had long blonde dreadlocks and was wearing a bright Bob Marley jacket. The third male suspect, with a height of 6 feet 1 inch, stood out by his white clothing and what appeared to be dreadlocks. The getaway driver was a woman with short hair and a hefty build. Despite these thorough descriptions, no one was identified right away. This left both the police and local residents looking for answers and seeking justice. As Zachary's loved ones grieved his passing, detectives made an effort to piece together what had transpired on that terrible day. The passion surrounding Zachary Whitley's case started to fade as the months stretched into years, and the once hot leads became cold. Despite the intensive efforts of the authorities, the unidentified assailants seemed to have disappeared without a trace. But then, in the year 2022, amidst the lingering bitterness from Zachary's case, an excruciating sense of déjà vu struck Greenville County. Once again, the city was shrouded with darkness by a new tragedy. The same address, 220 Eastview Road, where Zachary Whitley was killed years before, was the scene of another fatal gunshot incident. In the early hours of April 2nd, 2022, 21-year-old Charity Southerland was shot and killed inside her house. In her bedroom, Charity was discovered deceased, with her 3-year-old son present there at the crime site. Following the brutal crime, an investigation was launched right away. Motivated by a desire to provide the bereaved family with justice, investigators painstakingly gathered evidence and pursued leads. This occurred just a few months following her brother's tragic passing in a car accident. In the months that followed Charity's untimely demise, the investigation appeared to reach a dead end. To rekindle interest in the case, her family and friends hosted a vigil at Herdklotz Park on April 2nd, 2023. Charity had such a wonderful influence over everyone around her, said her father Linny, who recalled this.
Charity was, she was just such a good person, you know. Everybody she got encountered with loved her character. She was just a lovable kind of a person, a likable kind of person. You wanted to be around her. So, I mean, someone took her life, and then that's just not fair. It just ain't fair. So if there's anybody out there that knows anything, I think that they ought to have enough humanity to, to step up and say, look, I think I know somebody that's been bragging or, something.
On February 16th, 2024, the Greenville County Sheriff's Office held a news conference and disclosed substantial advancements in the 2 unsolved cases. Sheriff Hobart Lewis announced that both the killings of Charity Southerland in 2022 and Zachary Whitley in 2016 had been finally solved. Both incidents took place at the same address, 220 Eastview Road in Pelzer, nonetheless had no connection to one another. The 2022 case took a fresh turn when the GCSO Cold Case Unit named 22-year-old Charles Russell Reams as the prime suspect in Charity Southerland's slaying. Reams, her child's father, had been an individual of interest from the start, but there wasn't enough evidence at first to file charges. Charity passed away during what was thought to be an ongoing domestic problem within her house. Reams was apprehended in Rome, Georgia, in January 2023 on unrelated allegations of assault. He allegedly abducted a woman and struck her on the face with a gun, resulting in swelling, bruises, and a busted lip. In addition, he is suspected of conspiring to choke the victim. After that, the detectives were able to tie Reams to the DNA evidence and eyewitness accounts. As a result, in January 2024, warrants for his immediate arrest were issued on suspicion of his involvement in Charity's vicious demise and carrying a firearm while engaging in a violent criminal act. Presently, Reams is being held without bond at the Floyd County Detention Center in Georgia while he awaits extradition. Meanwhile, in the 2016 case, 34-year-old John Wesley Nix was found guilty of Zachary Whitley's killing. The authorities determined that it was a shady, drug-related deal that went south. Nix arrived at the property on Eastview Road to supply illicit substance and ended up shooting 4 individuals. As the case went cold case unit's detectives looked into it again in 2022. By carrying out further interrogations and employing enhanced DNA forensic technologies, police managed to get witness accounts and DNA proof that confirmed Nix as the gunman. Nix was apprehended by the GCSO Fugitive Apprehension Specialized Investigative Team at his Wade Hampton Boulevard workplace. Nix faced charges of violent conduct, criminal conspiracy, attempted robbery, assault and battery, and possession of a firearm during a violent crime. At the moment, he is being held without bond at the Greenville County Detention Center. The other 2 suspects associated with the incident are currently being sought by the GCSO. After years of confusion and anguish, the loved ones of Zachary Whitley and Charity Southerland have finally found much-needed closure thanks to the recent developments in their respective cases. Charity's sister, Jessica Kemp, expressed gratitude to the Georgian victim, whose identity wasn't disclosed, for having the courage to come forward. I wish that my sister had that same courage, because she would probably still be here today. Fema Southerland, her mother, said that she was grateful to the person who stepped forward and contributed in Reams's incarceration. Had she not taken those actions, I believe it would have taken longer for the detectives to find the evidence they required to apprehend him. She's my angel. Charity's son Raheem, in the wake of his father's incarceration, is being sought after by his family for full custody. Charles Russell Reams and John Wesley Nix's arrests demonstrate how committed the Greenville County Sheriff's Office is at bringing justice to the victims of the crime. In remembrance of Charity and Zachary, the community comes together, offering support to the family members of the victims while the legal proceedings proceed. In June 1979, 20-year-old Tammy Sue Aldridge set out for her usual jog in the rural Deep Creek Church community, a routine that would end in heartbreak. When she failed to return home, her mother filed a missing persons report, launching an urgent search. The next day, Tammy's mother received a chilling phone call from her daughter, claiming she was safe, but revealing nothing about her whereabouts. A second call 2 days later, equally terrifying, left her family and investigators grasping at straws. Decades passed until a previously overlooked name, discovered in the dusty case files, became the focus of a renewed investigation. How did Tammy's life take such a tragic turn? Who was the shadowy figure behind her disappearance and untimely death? Born and raised in Alamance County, North Carolina, Tammy Sue Aldridge was a 20-year-old college student. She was well known for her vivacious personality, friendliness, and love for life. After completing her studies at Eastern Alamance High School, she joined the East Carolina University. She completed a year as a student there before enrolling at Charlotte's Central Piedmont Community College. According to those who knew her well, she aspired to become a physical therapist. In June of 1979, during her summer vacation from the college, Tammy returned home. In order to keep herself occupied, she had submitted a job application to work as an assistant at a physical fitness center in Burlington. On June 30th, she informed her mother that she would be borrowing her uncle's bike and ride it around the nearby roads in the rural Deep Creek Church community, where she used to live and often went for jogs. She never did get to ride the bicycle, though, because that day its tires were flat. Instead, she chose to jog, which was more of her consistent and health-conscious habit. That evening, she never came back. When Tammy didn't arrive home, her mother filed a missing persons report for her. An investigation was started right away. Scent dogs were brought in to follow the route for jogging usually taken by Tammy. The dogs found tire skid traces at the area where the car had driven off, but it was unclear where it had gone. It was suspected that Tammy had been abducted while out on a jog. Remarkably, Tammy made a 9 p.m. phone call the day after she went missing. Later on, Shelby Aldridge, Tammy's mother, stated that although her daughter had assured her on the phone call that everything was fine, she did not provide her whereabouts. Her mother remembers her stating, "I'm all right. Tell Freddie I love him." Freddie was her boyfriend. Then the phone went silent, as if she had been forced to hang up. In the event that Tammy might call again, the detectives installed a tap and a recorder on the Aldridge's phone following that call. As expected, just 2 days later, on July 2nd, at roughly 10 p.m., she did make a call. She informed her mother, as she had stated earlier, that she was physically fine, however was unable to provide her location. She said she was being treated nice. She then remembers being told, "I love you," by her daughter. "Tell Daddy, I love him. I love you all," she said just before the second call was disconnected. The brief chat was recorded, but the police's attempt to tap and subsequently trace the second call proved unsuccessful. No one else had the opportunity to talk to Tammy over the phone except her mother, and nothing had been spoken about a ransom. On the following day, July 3rd, 1979, around 3:45 a.m., a motorist discovered Tammy's body on Highway 54. She had abrasions that hinted a rope was tied around her neck, and her ankles were also restrained with a rope. Additionally, she was wearing the same jogging shorts and shirt from the moment she went missing, but the top was inside out, and the shorts were on backwards, implying that whomever took her life had changed her clothes after the killing. She had been discovered with her body still warm. An autopsy revealed that she had been assaulted first and had passed away from strangulation. There were hardly any leads for the authorities. Evidence from the crime scene was gathered, and DNA recovered on Tammy's body was kept for use in further DNA tests. A man named Paul Anthony Teague was eventually detained in relation to the crime. However, he was exonerated when it was later discovered that there was no tangible proof connecting him to Tammy's demise. For more than 4 decades, the case was going to be unsolved. Believing that the modern technology would enable them to analyze the DNA evidence and identify the perpetrator, Alamance County authorities revisited the case in 2020. Dan Denton, a new investigating officer while studying the case, came upon a piece of paper in the file. On that piece of paper was written the name Gary Laframboise. That name had been overlooked by earlier officers. Denton said that Laframboise had never before been seriously considered as a suspect in Tammy's slaying. After conducting additional research, he discovered that Gary Lane Laframboise, who was only 19 years old in 1979, resided in Graham, North Carolina, on the 400 block of North Marshall Street, which was roughly 4 miles from the crime scene. The investigator additionally found that on October 11, 1979, a mere 3 months subsequent to Tammy's body being found, Laframboise was taken into custody and was charged with abduction and impersonating as a law enforcement official in a different case. He entered a guilty plea on December 4, 1979, to both those offenses and to a charge of serious assault against an Alamance County Sheriff deputy who was employed at the detention facility. Witnesses to the assault claimed he fractured the deputy's skull while he was in detention. Laframboise spent time in prison from May 8, 1980 to August 25, 1982. The investigating officer then tracked down Gary Laframboise's daughter, who voluntarily gave a sample of her DNA. A comparison of the profile obtained via DNA from Tammy's body and the DNA provided by Gary's daughter verified that Gary Laframboise was in fact the man responsible for taking her life. A scientific picture of the perpetrator was produced using DNA, but there weren't any additional pictures of Laframboise from 1979. By employing a technique known as age regression, investigators were able to reconstruct Laframboise's possible appearance at the time of the incident. Sadly, he passed away in 2020. Therefore, charges could not be brought against him. If you find this video compelling, show your support by giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to our channel, and ringing that notification bell. By doing so, you'll stay updated about the latest investigations and mysteries. Your support means the world to us as we continue to pursue the truth in the world of cold cases.